Thank you, Barry. We've tried to set this up as an exact replica of Todd Haymore's living room so that we felt very comfortable. Today, you're going to hear a lot of macro information. You're going to hear some statistics and survey results. And we thought it would be helpful if we got a little more up close and personal with some of our business leaders. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have a panel discussion. There's been some preparation, but some of this will also be free flow. There'll be no lengthy presentations and no PowerPoints, and I know that breaks your heart, but that's just how we're going to handle things. And so what we'll do is I'm going to let each of the panelists introduce themselves, talk a little bit about their business so that you understand the context of where they're coming from, and so that you also understand the diversity of the industries we're looking at and the diversity of the geography we're looking at. Once we do that, we'll jump right into why Virginia. Why is your company located in Virginia? What are the attributes of the Virginia business climate? And then we'll flip it and we'll talk about the challenges and some of the impediments we have and the things that we need to do as a Commonwealth to improve our chances of bringing in the high quality businesses and the high quality employees that we want. And then assuming that we manage our time well, there are some specific issues that I would like each of our panelists to address that are important to them because of their industry or because of their geography. So with that, we'll go ahead and kick it off. And Spencer, would you like to start?
Sure. My name is Spencer Williams. I'm the CEO of Kaleo. And first of all, it's a real honor to be on the panel with Ken and with Jen and Todd and Woody. We are a pharmaceutical company based in Richmond, Virginia, and what we do is we develop drug-device combination products that are designed to empower people to save a life. We're best known for competing with EpiPen, and this is our first product here. It's the AviQ product. It's designed for people with life-threatening allergies, and what we're most proud of is that 14 days after we launched this product, a young girl saved her own life with the product. And so it's set up where it actually talks to you and it walks through how to use the product. So our focus is on really patient empowerment. Our second product addresses a real crisis in this country, and that's opioid overdose. According to CDC, 91 people die every day in this country from opioid overdose. And when I look at the blueprint, we talk about loss of productivity from opioid overdose. And we have a product that's an opioid antagonist that in the same way can reverse opioid overdose. And since we launched this product, it's been reported to us of over 4,700 lives have been saved with this product. And that's on average about 30 lives saved per week. So we are based in Richmond. We have been at this for a little bit over 10 years. The company was founded by identical twins, Eric and Evan Edwards. I joined 11 years ago as the CEO. We started out with 3 of us. Today we have 257 people. We have 5 FDA-approved products in the last 4 years. Our business has grown over 200% over the last year. But what we're most passionate about, most excited about, is the impact we're having on patients and on families. And as we look at our business, our passion is building life-transforming products like this, but also really importantly, making sure that people have access to these products and can afford them. So thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, Spencer. Yep. Kevin?
Good morning.
Morning.
I'll echo what Spencer said and say thank you, Barry. Thank you, Woody, for the invitation to be here today. Quite an honor for me personally, but also for Ferguson Enterprises. My name's Kevin Murphy. I'm the new CEO of Ferguson Enterprises in Newport News, Virginia. And it was funny, we were talking this morning and introducing to a few folks during the networking session and said, Ferguson Enterprises, who is Ferguson Enterprises? And what he said, oddly enough, it's one of the bigger companies inside of Virginia that no one's ever heard of. And so what are we? From a size standpoint, roughly $15 billion in revenue, so a decently sized organization across all 50 states in the U.S., just shy of 25,000 associates that I'm proud to work with every day, 1,400 locations in all of those 50 states. And most people would see our company, know our company from the more consumer-facing aspects of the business, where we operate showrooms that help customers in a consultative way begin to redesign or renovate their home, build a new home with plumbing, lighting, appliances. But that's just a portion of what our company is. Most of our company is engaged in the B2B wholesale side of the world. We're the largest plumbing trade wholesale product organizations in the country. We're the largest commercial piping and commercial plumbing organizations in the country. We have a market-leading position in underground water and sewer infrastructure, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, fire and fabrication systems, industrial pipe valves and fittings. So we're involved in a wide variety of different industries where mostly outside sales professionals, inside sales professionals are handling consultative environments with customers. We also have a burgeoning consumer piece, and we're over $1 billion and fast-growing B2C company in pure play e-tail, where we market products under Build.com, SignatureHardware.com, LivingDirect.com, and Power Equipment Direct. So it's a big part of where we're going, and it ties together nicely with what our organization does on the wholesale side of the business. And so we're a focused supply chain organization, we're a focused sales organization, but I think if you talk to our people, they would tell you that we're a people development organization at its heart. We're a publicly traded organization, so we're going to grow for the shareholders, certainly, but we need to grow faster than market so that we can provide opportunity for people, as well as all the local hires and acquisition associates, of which I'm one of them. We also bring in about 450 college graduates into our training program every year. And if we don't grow faster than market, if we don't provide opportunities for them to have a bigger sphere of influence over their career, they will leave us. And so that's how we focus our efforts going forward. And so as we think about being part of this group today, it's important for us because economic development, workforce development, and providing opportunities for people is the heart of what we are.
Excellent, thank you. Jen?
Good morning, and many thanks to Barry and the Chamber for hosting this important discussion today. My name is Jennifer Ahmet, and I'm the Group General Manager North America for Transurban. Transurban is a global infrastructure investor, and the reason we get out of bed in the morning at our office is to strengthen communities through transport. We are very pleased here in Virginia to have invested about $1.2 billion in our network over the course of the last 8 years or so. And we've put about 30,000 Virginians to work. So I'm very proud to be part of the transportation infrastructure to help support the Commonwealth's economy with growing offices in Alexandria and Tysons. And probably more important, we are saving millions of customers in the Northern Virginia region many millions of hours a year in terms of getting to and from work and to and from their families. If you used our 95 express lanes on the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, you would have saved, and Todd will confess to that, will testify to this, that Tuesday evening you would have saved nearly 3.5 hours across a 30-mile stretch by using the 95 express lanes. So, thank you for your business, Todd.
Thank you.
There is no price too high.
I used it last night, and I can honestly say there is no price too
All
high.
right, I love this. This was great.
Well, Todd, most everybody knows you, the Secretary of Commerce and Trade, but maybe tell folks a little bit about what you do.
Woody, thank you. And Barry, thanks for, again, putting together this great conference. Governor McAuliffe called you the greatest Secretary of Commerce and Trade ever the other day. And
Close second.
Good job.
Close second.
Good job. Good job. I have had the honor and privilege of working in government over the last three governors, Governor Kane, Governor McDonnell, and Governor McAuliffe, between the Department of Agriculture and Secretary of Agriculture and Forestry, and now Commerce and Trade. Mostly during that time space, working with a number of you in this room on economic development and global trade matters. And I can just say it's been an honor and a privilege to serve the three gentlemen that I've served and working to try to strengthen Virginia's economy, and particularly in the last 4 to 6 years as we've recognized our over-reliance on federal spending and our way too direct ties to the federal government have had the need to diversify the economy, and as some of you may have heard, build the new Virginia economy. And regardless of what Governor-elect Northam may call it, that is one of the things I think that he needs to focus in on is continuing to diversify and strengthen the economy, a lot of things that have been discussed already. So Woody, with that, I'll turn it back over to you in the interest of time because, as you said, I'm just a lowly government hack here, not the corporate interest, and nothing else to tell.
I was scared you were going to tell us everything that your employer does. Okay, Spencer, if you could start us off. You've been in Richmond 10 years now?
That's right. That's right.
What brought you to Richmond? What brought your company to Richmond? And what are the attributes you see in the Commonwealth that help your business develop?
Yeah, so our company was actually founded in the state of Virginia. It was founded in Richmond. The big question for us is, why stay here? Because frankly, we're a high-growth life science company, and we get there are a lot of reasons for us to be somewhere else. So it would be a lot easier for us to build our business in San Francisco. It'd be a lot easier for us to build our business in Boston. And we've worked hard to stay in Virginia. We've done that for a couple of reasons, and I want to hit a couple things. First of all, I think Virginia has a very pro-business climate, and I give a lot of credit to that, to Barry and the Chamber and what they've done across all the administrations, and then people like Todd that have served multiple. So it's very predictable here that it's a pro-business climate, and that is extremely important to us. The taxes are certainly attractive as well. It's a great quality of life as we bring people to the state. But here's where I think it gets really interesting to us. It gets interesting as we look at entrepreneurship in the state of Virginia. I think about it kind of in a couple different categories. First, companies like Ken's, companies like Jen's that really are entrepreneurial, even though they're very, very large. That leads to a very great business climate. And then when we think about corporate entrepreneurship, you think about companies like CarMax and Capital One. They came out of other companies in a very entrepreneurial way, and that brings a lot of great talent to the Commonwealth. And then when you think about some of the kind of Main Street firms, like a Harris Williams that started here, or a Carlots, or other companies that are very entrepreneurial but kind of more Main Street focused, those I think are very entrepreneurial. And then there's this kind of new economy, and that's where I think Callao falls, is in that new economy where high growth, app developers, those kinds of things. And I think as you look across that, we're seeing more entrepreneurship across all three categories in the Commonwealth. And what's great about that is it leads to talent. So as we've grown from literally 23 people 5 years ago to 257 today, and we've built our headquarters here, we've only had to recruit 20% from outside the state. We've been able to bring most of that talent right here. And so that talent in pro-business environment has been very helpful. So that's why we've stayed. It's not easy. There's some ways it still would be easier to be somewhere else, but we're committed to be here, and that climate certainly helps.
You know, there's a significant effort being made in the state to create Virginia as a hub for health sciences, for biotech. Based on your experiences, is that something, can we be a leader? Is that something we can achieve? Because there's a lot of competition out there.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of competition. So it's a great question, because I think there's a lot more going on in life sciences in the state of Virginia than most people realize. So there are over 26,000 people in the Commonwealth that are in the life science industry at over 1,500 entities. And that's grown over the years. And then as you look at some of these startup companies, between 2013 and 2015, over $700 million in capital was raised to grow those businesses. So there's a lot more going on here than I think people are aware. And I think one of the things we need to do a better job of, frankly, is to market the growth we have in these new economy businesses and in life sciences in particular, because then that helps companies like us attract people to the state.
Now, Kevin, y'all have been here for a long time, but I know you get pinged. You get people approach you about moving your headquarters elsewhere, and I know you've been through processes of trying to determine, is Virginia the right place for us? Can you talk a little bit about why you stay in Virginia, and a little bit about maybe what you went through earlier this year when others were trying to take you away from the Commonwealth?
And so we have been here for quite some time. My friend and one of the original presidents of Ferguson Enterprises, Mr. David Peebles, started our home here over 60 years ago. And so this is our home. It's our home also from an associate standpoint. Our associates give back to the state, give back to the local community, both philanthropically and with their time. And so it's very important. It's got a feeling of home for us. But the state, the local officials, certainly Newport News, Virginia, have been very helpful in making sure that that decision was easier. Much like what you're talking about, there are pulls from the outside environment. There are pulls, and we'll talk a great deal about workforce development, I'm sure, throughout this panel, throughout the rest of the day, and it can't be understated, because when we think about the kinds of jobs that we retained and that we're going to grow inside of that new headquarters facility, there'll be in some areas where we're going to have some difficulties bringing some talented people in. Things like IT, data analytics, cyber, in places like our National Sales Center. All of these businesses were relocating to this new corporate center. So the state was extremely helpful. Todd certainly was extremely helpful in those efforts. But the state of Virginia is also a wonderful place for business for us. We're growing faster in the state of Virginia across all of our businesses, commercial, underground infrastructure, finished plumbing, residential construction, than we are across the rest of the country, and we've got some pretty robust businesses there. So it's a sense of community, a sense of home for us, and quite frankly, we'll invest a tremendous amount of money this year. We've got committed projects from the capital side, over $120 million for the state of Virginia, and a lot of that's going to be in that new corporate headquarters. But what we've done is also created that as a call to action for our associates to get more involved, in some of the causes that we're talking about here, and some of the local philanthropic causes that can help to bring people into the workforce, continue with ongoing learning so that we develop a workforce for the future.
You do work in all 50 states. Is the workforce development, being able to find employees who have the skills that match what you need, is that something that covers all the states?
It does, and one of the things that we were talking about prior to the panel discussion is we're doing some creative things in terms of how we're solving problems today. We're engaging with a company called Rocket Space out of San Francisco, California, that essentially takes problems that you have as a business and casts that problem out across thousands of technology-based startups to help you solve that problem, invest in companies, invest in technology people. And so you begin to think, why not Virginia? Why shouldn't that be a place that we invest in and start technology incubators? There's a company that competes with Rocket Space called L Marks out of London. They're locating their US operations in Columbus, Ohio. Why not Virginia? And so how do we make sure that we use that as a catalyst and a jumping off point for those types of activities?
It strikes me that all states are dealing with the workforce development issue, and so as opposed to looking at that maybe as a negative, we're going to talk more about this. It's really more of an opportunity for us. If we can do better than other states, then we're going to attract the people we want to attract. Jen, what brought Transurban to Virginia, and what keeps you here?
Yeah, I think for strong economic fundamentals, first and foremost, brought us, when you're an infrastructure investor, you're looking at a global marketplace and where do you want to put your dollars. And for us, the strong economic fundamentals were obviously top of the list when we look at strong economic growth, strong employment growth, strong population growth. And Northern Virginia has certainly delivered that for us. We've seen a 20% or 12% increase in employment since we first started serving customers in the Tysons area. We've got more than 45 million square feet in the pipeline of transit-oriented development in the Tysons Corner. We think it will continue to grow our customer base. When I think back and think, what was the real driver for Virginia? In our industry, it was the fact that the Commonwealth was game for an innovative approach in transportation. And that, above all else, was really driving our decision-making here for Virginia. We had a partner in government that was brave enough to try innovative new approaches to delivering transportation infrastructure, collaborative enough to work with us as partners to find ways to be able to make new high-technology solutions and new creative, innovative finance solutions work. And in the course of our business here in Virginia, it spans now almost 5 governors. We've continued to see that consistency in certainly have to acknowledge Secretary Lane and Governor McAuliffe and the team for continuing and strengthening this tradition of being a partner who's game for innovation. I think that's what brings us to Virginia. Now, why do we stay? Full disclosure, we have a 75-year contract, and it's hard for us to it's hard for us to pick up the Beltway and take it to somewhere else. But, and I think actually that makes us a unique, one, we love Virginia, and Virginia's home, but it puts us in a unique category when you talk about workforce. I know we're going to talk about that, because at the end of the day, and I think the stakes are very high for the Commonwealth to be able to meet the workforce needs of growing businesses. Because businesses can pick up and move to other places. When we're recruiting employers, I don't have a single customer in California, but I have an office in California because I need to have an office there to be able to have the technology support and resources I need to be able to drive our business. 40% of our workforce is driven by technology professionals. So we don't have the luxury, because of the nature of our business, to pick up and move somewhere else to find that talent. But we've had to get creative in actually putting locations elsewhere to get that talent. We shouldn't be doing that. And so it's really imperative that through the efforts of the Virginia Chamber, the Nova Chamber, North Virginia Chamber, and Richmond Chamber are doing some really innovative programs to help connect businesses with academia to be able to tackle this problem, because there are many of us in the infrastructure space that we have a high demand for these high technology skills here in the region, and we don't have the option to move to our business to South Carolina or to Nashville or Austin or Southern California to find that talent.
Todd, you are selling Virginia 24/7, and you have now for several years.
Sleep when you're dead.
What's that?
Terry McAuliffe, sleep
Yeah.
when you're dead.
Yes, yes. So when you're out selling, what are you selling? And on the other side of that, what are current businesses that you want to expand, or a new business, what are they buying?
Well, what we're selling is everything that Jen and everybody else has said. I mean, it's the tangibles that we can talk about, whether it's business climate, the pro-growth, regulatory, tax structure. I know we're going to talk about this a little bit more. One of our greatest assets is our workforce. One of our greatest challenges is our workforce. But it's everything on the tangible side, and we generally try to back it up with the proof. Like this week, Forbes ranked Virginia as the 5th best place in America to do business, and we're up from 7th 2 years ago, 6th last year, and I think, as I tweeted out, the comeback continues. So we really do pitch everything, and I'm very lucky. I've had 3 governors who enjoy going out and pitching Virginia very, very passionately. One now, incredibly passionately, and make no mistake about it, that's probably one of the greatest intangibles that we do have, is someone who is willing to go out and promote Virginia anywhere in the world, any time of day. I'll never forget the first trade mission we went on. The first marketing mission we went on was we were supposed to be going to Europe, and we had a company in Far East in Asia that said that they were interested in looking at Virginia, and the governor said, "Oh, Asia's on the way to London, we'll make it happen." That's special, and we did it. And as I said jokingly, sleep when you're dead, but that's been his mantra the whole time. I think that those quality of life, I need to mention that, because we are hearing that more and more from companies, and it's not just the West Coast companies that we're recruiting, the Stones and the Deschutes and all of the craft beer and craft beverages that have come in over the last few years, but really across the board, from Nestle to CoStar, these big companies that have come into Virginia over the last few years. They want to know about our quality of life, and we're very blessed. I think one of the things that we've done really well over the last 2 administrations is integrating our economic development teams, where it's VEDP, Department of Agriculture, tourism. Rita McClenny, I believe, is here today. Rita is one of our greatest assets of going out and promoting the quality of life of Virginia, because that's what they do to attract more people here. So I could go on, but it's everything that I think everybody in this room knows, along with those intangibles that we bring to the table in those face-to-face direct meetings, including, as we discussed the other day, a company in from the Far East last night. We entertained at the governor's mansion without the governor there. I got to play governor last night. It was kind of fun. But the company made a point of saying, wow, the other governors in the other states that we looked at didn't do this for us. Does that matter at the end? I don't know. It won't hurt.
Well, I know you've been involved with hundreds of companies, and sometimes we win and sometimes we don't win. And when we don't win, what have been the impediments to getting the victory?
I would say the greatest impediment for losses that we have seen over the last, certainly the last 4-6 years, are site readiness. And I know Barry and the team and the chamber have talked a great deal about site readiness in the blueprint, and that's important. We are viewed, again, as a great place to do business. There's nothing that's been said today I can argue with. In fact, we could add to it. But as far as a number of significant companies looking to come in with large manufacturing, advanced manufacturing opportunities, I believe VDP gave me the numbers a few weeks ago. I think over the last 5 to 6 years, we've had somewhere between 40 and 50 companies totaling about $6.5 billion in capital investment who have said the first reason they're walking away from Virginia was site readiness. And we pride ourselves, and you all know this, we pride ourselves in talking about moving at the speed of business. Well, when a company tells you that your sites aren't ready to move at their speed of business, we got a problem. So I think that that is probably the greatest challenge that we face, aside from workforce. Workforce is the big overarching umbrella, but it's also one of our greatest assets. But really pinning me down on issues that have cost us over the last few years that I've been directly engaged in economic development, I think site readiness would be the biggest thing.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
I think, and Todd is well aware of this, but I have the pleasure of working with the Port of Virginia, and CBRE releases an annual report that looks at the top ports in the U.S. and strengths and weaknesses. And we are very pleased having coming off a record year, and our Executive Director, John Reinhardt, is here on the second row under his leadership, that we've moved up those rankings and we're number 5 in the country. But when they looked at our port, they praised that our ability to be able to make improvements in our port infrastructure. We have nearly $750 million worth of capacity improvements underway at the port right now to be able to bring cargo in, the related jobs to the Commonwealth. But they did indicate, and it's clear, that we are lagging behind other states in that site development. And I bring it up because I think the people in this room really need to understand this issue and engage. For someone who spent my career developing big infrastructure projects, rail and bridges, the reason we could have moved these projects forward successfully in Virginia is because we've had the strong and tireless support of the Virginia business community behind us. And what we need is to take that same level of energy and put that support and the business community support behind this kind of real estate infrastructure as well, because it is just as critical for us to be able to attract and support our economic prosperity long term.
It's difficult too, because I know that everything costs money, and then we have the Virginia Business Site Ready operation going on at VDP, and there's a little bit of money in that. It's been cut recently because of budget shortfalls, and hopefully that will be rebuilt. But it really does take the locality, and I think that's one of WWIN and the things that are going on with Ben Davenport and leadership with Go Virginia. That's going to be an important place to play, getting communities to work together collaboratively to enhance their overall business climate, particularly as it relates to business-ready sites, because everybody I think probably in the room knows that there was a very large foreign automobile manufacturer looking at Virginia. We lost out. We don't know who's going to win, but we know that we lost out, and one of the reasons was business-ready site. We didn't have what they needed as far as starting to make those investments to get the jobs here. And I'll wrap it up by echoing what you mentioned on the port. Most everybody in the room knows I came from Universal Leaf Tobacco, from the private sector and the government. The port is invaluable to what we're doing domestically in economic development. The conversation that we had at dinner last night with this foreign company, most of the conversation came back around to their ability to move product out into the marketplace, but also bring it back in. And those of you who've heard the governor repeat it over and over and over, 90% of the world's customers live outside the United States of America. We are an economic powerhouse, make no bones about it, but as far as customer base is concerned, the rest of the world is king. So we need a very, very strong port, and I applaud the work that you all do as board members, and certainly what John and the team have done down there as well, because it is a key to what we're doing right here at home.
You guys want to comment on that?
I'll emphasize that as well. Speed of the permitting process, and how do we continue to focus on speed of the permitting process? We built a small showroom just next door to our corporate headquarters. It took 6 months from the permitting process, building an expansion on our Chantilly, Virginia facility for an underground infrastructure operation. It took 10 months. Conversely, a distribution center in Ohio, over 500,000 square feet, took 4 weeks. And when we looked at what we did in upstate New York, which clearly has had a history from a permitting process perspective, 5 weeks for a 500,000 square foot distribution center. So how do we stay focused on that to aid in that development process?
Spencer, let me turn back to workforce, because we could probably spend 2 hours talking about that, but it is such a critical issue. What do we need to do better?
So I think that one of the challenges for new economy companies in the state of Virginia is getting talent to relocate here and realize that if the first company they come to doesn't pan out, there'll be other opportunities. So we have lost multiple people that we tried to recruit to Virginia that ended up going to companies that weren't nearly as good as our company in Boston, because they thought, well, if it doesn't work out, then there are many other companies I can go work for. I don't have to move my family again. Now, we'll point out that one individual has since left Boston looking for another job. But anyway, and the people that came to us are still with us. It's good. But no, I think that getting people to come is really, really important. And I think we do that by better marketing our new economy and our entrepreneurship in the state. I don't think we do that well enough. And I think Todd probably does it really well, but I do think that the startup community is often not talked about enough. And I'll tell you, in Richmond, the vibe right now is hot for entrepreneurship. It is hot. And I think a lot of it has to do with visions of business leaders, say 15 years ago, guys like Jim Ucrop that said, you know what, we need a creative class in Richmond. We need to have a place that people want to come and start businesses. And with a very intentional process, we now have a really vibrant new economy business sector in the city of Richmond. But I don't think people know that. I mean, and so I think we need to talk about that more because it will help us get more talent to the Commonwealth.
Kevin, from your standpoint, is it recruiting people, or is it people coming up through our educational system that are the ones that are really the feeders for you?
Yeah, I think it's both. We're an internal succession planning kind of company. I agree. Marketing the state of Virginia to the outside environment is critically important. It's a great quality of life. There is going to be opportunity for folks to advance their careers both inside of the company they join as well as others. Maybe I'll zig a little bit on this one, because if we think about job creation versus skills match and workforce development, every one of our customers across every one of our businesses, the number one concern they have is they cannot find enough people to do the work, and they do not know who's going to show up for work that next day. And so when we look at the overall economic environment, the construction industry lost millions of people during the downturn that haven't since come back. But we've also got an aging out of the trade population. And so we think about good jobs, good places to make a career, support a family, but also start small businesses. And so you're talking about plumbers, electricians, and trade professionals. Most of our customers, 87% of our customers today, say they don't want to expand their business, even when the economy is allowing them to expand their business because they don't have the workforce necessary, so they'll just raise price. That's a problem that we've got to work towards. And how do we make sure that, yes, a college education is extremely important, but it's not the be-all, end-all for the entirety of the population. And so how do we make sure that apprenticeships and trade population are reinforced through high schools and community colleges so that we can get these durable jobs filled and we can grow the construction environment?
You mentioned you have to have set up offices in other parts of the country. How do we eliminate that need? What do we need to do in Virginia so that you can get the people you need here instead of having to go to other states?
The focus for us is technology professionals. And it's interesting, we take different angles of the construction industry and transportation. Transportation is evolving, and it is much more about technology now than it is about concrete and steel, and looking at major transportation infrastructure projects. And so for us, putting a focus on high-tech specialty jobs, professionals who specialize in the cloud and emerging technologies is an area where we need support coming out of Virginia. And I have to give the Virginia Chamber and other chambers like Richmond Chamber and Northern Virginia Chamber credit, because they are linking those needs that we have in the business community directly with academia and facilitating those conversations to say, and actually increasing the quality of the data that we have around this issue, which is particularly important, so that schools both at our community colleges and our universities here in Virginia, but also at our public school systems, that they're starting early and understanding clearly these are the jobs that are coming available, and real life data to say, here are the urgent needs that we have, and so those programs can be developed accordingly. You cannot have enough coordination and information sharing between those two parties to to be able to help tackle this problem. And for us, technology is top of the list.
Todd, any extra thoughts on that?
Look, we've made some incredible strides in workforce development over the last few years in a bipartisan manner. I'll give Senator Frank Ruff a lot of credit. He and Kathy Byron and a handful of other folks are very passionate about it. I know that's what I love, having worked for both parties. I love working in those middle spaces where everybody's getting along for the common good of the state and economic development. And I think workforce development is a pretty nice lanes to operate in. We're blessed. I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's one of our greatest assets, but probably one of our greatest challenges. We have one of the top-ranked K-12 systems in America. We've got outstanding colleges and universities, and an incredible community college system that's easily accessible to the entire population of the Commonwealth. I could go on and on with those attributes and the changes that have been made to enhance workforce development. And we're getting recognized for it. I mean, Forbes I think we were second or third in the nation as far as labor supply, and you look at the backstory behind that, that's tied to workforce development. Site Selection magazine had us as the second best workforce development state on the Atlantic region a few months ago when they ranked us. So we're getting kudos, and again, everything's relative in life. Every other state in America has the problem. The thing that's been incredibly frustrating for me is just how massive I hate to use the word, but the bureaucracy is. It's workforce development in the Commonwealth is spread over 3 secretariats, 8 agencies, and 24 programs. And there are some things that the Secretary of Commerce and Trade is responsible for that don't fall in my secretariat. I have no more say hardly. Yes, it might say in code that I'm the Chief Workforce Development Officer, but when you have other agencies and other secretariats that are making decisions on their own without necessary collaboration, that's a problem. And that's, I read this morning in the Times-Dispatch that the governor-elect was looking to bring economic development programs under one umbrella, and we've kind of done that in the reform legislation that we passed working with Senator Ruff and Chris Jones and the governor with VEDP, in that VEDP is clearly defined in code now as the coordinator, the lead for economic development. So if I was going to whisper into the Lieutenant Governor-elect's ear, I would tell him, I guess I'm whispering right now, I would tell him and his team to focus on workforce development. We can and should do better, because workforce development is going to be the key for economic development going forward in the Commonwealth. And if we're going to continue the rise in Polina and CNBC and Forbes, as we're doing, the comeback is on. But if we're going to continue to go to number 1, workforce, workforce, workforce.
Tell why you're whispering.
While I'm whispering.
Well, while you're whispering, I just want to echo my colleagues here. One of the things that we need our prospects to understand that Richmond is as a dynamic environment for young people as Austin or Texas. And that's not just talking, that's investing in marketing to be able to make that happen. And right now, we have a minuscule, almost non-existent budget in Virginia to actually invest in that kind of marketing that tells that workforce this is the kind of place that you want to come. So as you're whispering, I think we'd all, it seems to add that, that marketing and making an investment in that area is important.
I think Stephen Murray's been whispering too.
Yeah,
Stephen here? No, it's important. I mean, I think there's, Spencer, you mentioned the entrepreneurial climate. That is something else in Virginia that we can do much, much better to promote, because I would say, candidly, that we don't have the reputation of some of these other regions of the country, states, or particular areas within those states that we should. I mean, we've got incredible things going on in Richmond, Hampton Roads, Northern Virginia, Roanoke, and I was just in my home, Woody, I was home the other day in Danville. The things that are going on there in the old tobacco district. Danville's coming back, Lynchburg's coming back, and it's due to entrepreneurs mostly. It's not the big businesses that are coming in. There's these small operations, these small businesses, which are the backbone of our economy, and we need to do a better job of telling that story and promoting and pushing those folks from what we can do on the state side.
And I know Stephen will talk about this probably in more detail, but we spend a whole lot of money on tourism marketing, but very little money on business marketing. All right, let me quickly, because we're getting short on time, Jen, all of us who deal with traffic going east and west and north and south, how important is transportation for us having either a competitive advantage or disadvantage?
No, it's huge. I think the best example is we had a Montgomery County official come and see us about doing some work in Montgomery County, Maryland. And I said, well, what brings you in? And he said, well, I had a prospect come to talk about relocating their company to Montgomery County. And they stayed in Tyson's Corner. And they came over and they said, well, there are a bunch of cranes going up over there, and they're building buildings, and they're building highways, and they're building rail, and I think we might want to go over there. And that's really happening. So we're seeing states like Maryland, others who've seen Virginia take a leadership role in that area and are following suit now because it has been so important to prospects. But in Virginia, our work is not done in transportation. I think in Northern Virginia particularly, making sure that we have sustainable funding and a sustainable metro system is very critical for employers in that area. I build highways for a living, but I moved my office next to Metro because that's what I need to do to be able to recruit talent to come and help build those highways. And so making sure that system works is really important, and continuing to focus on congestion relief solutions. Again, more about technology probably than concrete and steel, but managed lanes, technology. Virginia's taking a leadership role in looking at autonomous vehicles, making sure that we're continuing to push the envelope when it comes to innovative, creative congestion relief solutions to make sure that these cities continue to have a great quality of life in our places that people want to come and live and work.
Okay, great. Spencer, in the healthcare side of things, I mean, it's a dynamic industry, and every day there's something in the paper about potential changes in healthcare. How do you stay ahead of the curve? How do you remain competitive?
Yeah, it's a great question. Let me hit one thing just on technology before I jump into that. You've heard all three of us, heard Kevin, Jen, and I all talk about the importance of technology, analytics capability. That, no matter what size of the business, that's a capability we need in the state, in people and in technology. And I think if we can do that, that allows us to have artificial intelligence, predictive analysis, ways we can have better insights around our business. So I think that's an important theme across all the sides of the business. As we look at healthcare, our healthcare system in this country is broken. And we're going to spend over $3 trillion this year on healthcare, which is per capita twice what the average industrial nation spent. It is primed for disruption. And at Clio, we are taking big steps, bold steps, to really try to disrupt healthcare. And we think it begins by empowering patients, putting control back in the hands of patients and families of their own healthcare. And so we're looking at ways not only to bring out life-saving products like that, but how do we make sure that the patient can get the product they need, they can afford it, and then they have it. So with our system, we actually make sure it's free to the patient, and then we deliver it to the patient's house. So life-saving products. And so we're going to stay at the forefront by really having a focus on empowering patients and then working with other organizations that see that same value of putting the patient back in control of their own health care.
Kevin, we've talked about Richmond, we've talked about Northern Virginia some. Hampton Roads is really important to our economic engine. You have a big facility. We've got critical offices there as well. How do we make sure that Hampton Roads continues to be successful as a business driver?
Yeah, so a lot of things that we've talked about already in terms of marketing the state from a business perspective so that outside candidates want to come and call Hampton Roads their home. But I can't echo enough what you just mentioned, Spencer. You used the word disruption. I spend the vast majority of my time thinking about disruption inside of our business. Amazon is the big 800-pound gorilla in the room. And when you think about a transaction-based environment, that's not what we're going to be. That's not how we're going to compete in that environment. We're going to compete with a consultative thought leadership type of environment. But that involves technology. That involves associates who are digital natives. That involves people who want to talk about AI and how that disrupts what the traditional transaction process looks like. And so when we think about Hampton Roads, we've got to make sure that we're developing that talent, that workforce development, which is the constant theme of this morning, so that we don't have to go to our businesses in Atlanta, Georgia, partnering with Georgia Tech, or in Northern California in order to have those technology hubs. They belong here, they belong in Hampton Roads, they belong in the state of Virginia. And so those are the things that we're focused on, mainly in the area of disruption.
We need our infrastructure, our thinking, our bureaucracy is all set up for when we used to have 5- and 10-year strategic plans. We're revising our strategic plan every 6 months. And if you're doing a strategic plan that goes out more than 18 months, you're just guessing. So we've got to make sure that the way we do business is consistent with how quickly things are moving in our industries. So, Todd, we've got 8 seconds. 8 seconds. Can you please let us know whether we're getting Amazon here or not?
Done.
We'll give you overtime on this one.
Overtime, thank you. You know, I think that Amazon, you've just kept the 800-pound gorilla. I think if you look at the RFP and you read it in black and white, just straight as is, there is absolutely no reason why Virginia will not be a finalist. And we had a conversation with some Amazon folks the other day. We found out that the down select, which was originally supposed to occur in December now, where they would get to some number maybe between 10 and 20 finalists, maybe even less than that, has been pushed out to 2018 because of the amount of 236, 37 submissions. I think that you know, if they're looking at intangibles outside of the checking the box, I mean, probably Northern Virginia, no secret, checks most all those boxes. But if they're looking at intangibles, there's no reason why Richmond and Hampton Roads can't be in the field. So we're very confident. And I think the fact that as we put the proposal together, and Stephen Murray and the team at DEDP led the charge working with Northern Virginia and Richmond and Hampton Roads, and the resources that were pulled together from that really shows that we're all in this. So if we don't get it, it won't be for lack of trying. The thing that I've tried to remind everyone from discussions with people like Senator Norman all the way through is that Amazon has told us that, yes, HQ2 is the grand prize. Everybody knows that. It's what everybody's talking about. But there are other investments that are going to be made as part of this, and I've described it as the homecoming queen in the court. Yeah, everybody wants to date the homecoming queen, but there's a lot of pretty people, members of the court as well. And
I think we might be done now. Yeah.
so anyway, we believe that Amazon will continue if HQ2 is not located in Virginia. We believe that there's opportunities for other investments in the future.
Thank you to all our panelists. This is great.